Our next guest on the pod, we had back for episode 120 as he was in the middle of his 50 marathon journey throughout the year of 2024. And since his last appearance, a lot has happened from sleeping in Erica's spare bedroom studio to running around the world. We're wicked excited to have him back on the pod as he just got off a flight from California. Wyatt Moss, welcome back to the On the Runs podcast, dude. What's up?
Thank you for having me. I'm excited for this one.
I am too. I know, right?
Part two.
We have so much to catch up on. I don't even know where to start. Where do you want to start, Eric?
I know where to start. Erica's spare bed. Is it comfortable? Is it good? How was it?
It was a great night's sleep. That was the night that I was doing the double where I went from New Hampshire over to Portland, Oregon. So this was during the 50 States Challenge, and it was a conundrum. I ran a marathon up there, but I didn't have my pair of shoes the day before. So then
That's right.
I was like,
That's right.
I don't know what to do. Post a video about it. There was
No rental car
rental
either, right?
What's that?
No rental car.
No rental cars. Rental cars like $500. It was because of
To
the
the
leaf
rescue.
watching.
I
The
had
leaf
you
keeper.
covered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fall foliage.
Then I shipped my shoes on the road up to New Hampshire from Boston. So I wasn't, but they were closing at like 7 p.m. So I wasn't able to take a bus there or whatever it was. So Erica came in clutch, picked me up, brought me over there, ended up staying in the spare bedroom, and then we both ran. Didn't you like spontaneously sign up that morning?
Yeah. So I knew that you had a real tight time constraint. So I wasn't going to do the marathon, but I was like, they have a 10K. This is perfect. So I'll run the 10K. I'll just chill out until you finished, and then we could get back on the road. Because you had a flight to catch just a few hours after that, and man, you are the king of time constraints. Let me tell you.
That was a really fun weekend too. So New Hampshire Marathon, beautiful course. It's like the 5th clearest lake in the country. And
It's also one of the cleanest.
yeah. And apparently there's a lot of summer camps up there. Someone told me as I was running that the Obamas used to send their kids to the summer camp on that lake. I was like, oh, that's really cool.
I learned
And
something today. I
exactly.
didn't even know that.
Absolutely beautiful course. And then, so the second one that weekend, that was on a Saturday morning. The second one was in Portland, Oregon. But at the start line, when I said, yeah, I'm running Portland tomorrow, everyone's like, oh, you're going up to Maine. Because apparently there was another one in Maine. And so there were a couple people doing that challenge. They were doing the half both days, and maybe a couple that were doing the full both days. And I was like, oh no, I'm going over to Oregon. And that was the fun part, is that when I got there, I didn't have a hotel for the night because I was just out of money. And so then that was the night that I slept in the airport. So then,
Well, I'm
It's
happy
better
I
than a
could at
porta
least offer
potty.
you-
yeah,
Well,
exactly.
yes, and I'm happy I could at least offer you a bed for half of that weekend. So,
Yes.
oh my gosh, Wyatt.
Well, it made for a better story this way, right? Because then
it absolutely
actually-
does. Yeah.
it turned out to be my fastest double marathon weekend for the entire year.
No way.
So I ran a 3:43 for the marathon in New Hampshire.
And that course
crushed
is
the
no
beer at
joke. That
1:43.
has crazy hills in it.
Yeah, it was hilly. They threw me a beer from the balcony as I was running past. So I shotgunned a beer at mile 23 for that one. Then
That's
flew
the way.
out. Exactly. Flew out and slept in the airport, woke up the next morning, ran a 3:26 in Portland. And so my average time was like a 3:30 something. It was the
That's
fastest.
amazing.
And yeah, it was just a wild weekend. So
So I have to tell you, I am pulling a U, I suppose you could say.
Yeah.
In just a couple of weeks, the first weekend in May, I am going to be flying out to Wisconsin, running a marathon there, and then I'm driving to Michigan and running one the next day. So I've never done a back-to-back before.
But-
do you have any advice for me?
Well, hold on, Erica. He flew across the country. You're
I
driving
know
to
he
one
has
other
it worse.
state.
I just have to sit in a car for 4 hours, but I've never done back-to-back marathons.
to be fair, my least favorite back-to-back marathons are the ones where I have to drive in between, because then I have to be
okay.
awake and conscious, and I can't move my legs around because you get your
I'm
foot
pretty
on the
sure
steering
Brandon's
pedal.
going to be driving me, or at least he doesn't
Yeah.
know it yet, but he's going to be driving me. So,
Very smart.
but yeah.
Yep. Because there were some nights where I would be driving at midnight. It was not safe. Anyways, tip for a double marathon weekend: just eat a ton of food right after you're done running. That's
That is very
the
smart,
main
actually.
thing. And then as well on the drive, like stop every hour and just throw your legs around. You don't want to show up the next morning with dead legs.
That is excellent advice, and I will certainly try to do that.
Y'all should, if
Definitely
you
gotta
ever
eat,
get the
though.
opportunity to do the I-35, that's a really fun double marathon.
That one is on my agenda for next year because I don't have either of those states. So that is one that I want to do. And I love how they package it as a challenge. I'm like, yes, you had me at challenge plus an extra medal, of course. So yeah, I'll have to pick your brain a little bit later about the whole logistics of that guy and see how it goes.
Yeah. The fun part about that one, you just hop on the highway and go up the I-35.
Nice.
So it's really just a drive up the road.
Very, very
There
nice.
you go. Why I mentioned we'll get into the rest of the 50 states and running around the world, but I did mention you just got off the airplane. You're coming back from California. We actually had some pod fam out there who I think saw you in California. They were sending me some pictures of you and them. Tell us what you were just doing in California.
So, well, for the timeline, I finished the 50 States Marathon Challenge in December of 2024. It is now April of 2025. And back in February of 2025 is when I finished the 7 continents in 7 days World Marathon Challenge. So,
Round of applause
there's
for you,
actually,
my friend. It's impressive.
Thank you. There's actually 2 of them. One of them is called the Great World Race. The other is called the World Marathon Challenge. That was the one that I was on. And so then now in April, I flew out to Las Vegas on Thursday. And I ran a marathon with my buddy Saturday morning. And then Saturday night, I flew out to San Diego to run the Carlsbad 5000. It's the world's fastest 5K. And I made a surfboard for the Carlsbad 5000. It was like one of the ways I'm going to pay for the series this summer is by building tables, the same way that I paid for the 50 States Challenge, and I'm still paying for because I've got a little bit of debt left. Yeah, that's why I was in California. It was a crazy weekend because the marathon in Vegas was one of the Revel marathons, so the downhill marathon series.
Yep.
And I'm doing a challenge with them this year where I'm doing all 4 of them, so kind of like co-hosting a challenge.
Very cool.
It's the first time that they've ever done something like this, so like we're both trying to figure out the details as we go. But it was really cool to see everyone there saying like, "Oh, I'll be at one of these down the road." And my buddy and I ran in a costume. It's like a 2-person costume, Slinky from Toy Story.
Oh yeah.
So we were running in that, and my legs are still kind of dead. I haven't been to the gym really to start building my body back up. So it was actually really tough. Like around mile 23, I was hallucinating from the heat of the costume.
Oh,
my buddy was like, "All right, come on, let's keep going." And I was like, "Dude, I have to walk." So we walked a good bit at the end of it. And yeah, all around incredible weekend. So the challenge that I'm doing with Revel, they're helping me out with a place to stay for the 4 weekends.
Perfect.
Yep. So because it was funny, I got to speak at the expo on Friday for the Revel Mount Charleston, and I was sharing advice that I learned from the 50 States Marathon Challenge. 7 of the lessons I learned over the past year, and one of them was that it never gets easier; you just get better. And everyone kind of laughed because they're like, "That's not advice that I want to hear for my first time marathon tomorrow morning." But I told them about the story about last year at Revel Mount Charleston, where I slept in my car the night before running Mount Charleston, and then to this year where it's like a lot can change in a year if you put in the training, those types of things. But yeah, it was a cool first full circle moment. I think that's actually I ran Atlanta twice, but that's the only other marathon that I've run twice.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
I love to see that though. You are a globe trotting, world traveling, state hopping son of a bitch.
Running man.
Running
man.
Now, when you came to New Hampshire last time and you ran in Bristol, New Hampshire, that's right near where Erica and I went to college. But the Revel is going to be about an hour and a half more north on the Kangamangas Highway. Are you going to do the whole like you're running all these marathons, right?
Yes. So all 4 of them I'll be running.
You're going to go to the very top of this Kangamangas Highway, and the first half marathon part of that is like really steep, dude. It's just down, 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 down. The last half, I'm going to be honest, it flattens out, but it's like probably that good flatten out, speed that you're going to get there. You're going to love it. So you're going even more north. Have you ever been here besides your one marathon?
So if you remember back in 2021, I did the 50
That's
states in 50
right.
days.
Chipotle.
Did Chipotle, yeah.
Chipotle, burrito in every state. And we went to New Hampshire. To be quite honest with you, I have no idea where we went.
It's probably Nashua.
Yeah,
The first
I asked
town.
him that and he's like, I don't know.
Yeah. So I don't think I've actually been to that part of New Hampshire before, but I'm excited because I want to see the rest of the country. You know, like the main cities have a lot to offer, but
Yeah, you're going to love it here,
Cleanliness
dude.
or whatever highway, like that would
You're
be cool
going to
to
love
see.
it. Maybe I just go find a campsite and bring the camper up there with the kids
you
and then
go.
just kind of, I'll be nearby. I'll try. So you actually brought something up. I have my notes here and I wanted to talk to you about the 50 states here, but really things you learned from the Chipotle challenge that you were able to like use here on your 50 state challenge. Now, I know if Chipotle, you did this with a bunch of buddies and you were in the car and you're just going every state, you probably didn't spread it throughout the entire year. This one, you were kind of on your own. You tried to spread out through the entire year. What did you learn from the Chipotle challenge to help you grow and help you achieve and complete this goal?
Well, a large part of the 50 states marathon challenge from last year, the goal was to become a content creator. So the challenge itself was to keep me disciplined, but I guess the meta goal is like, all right, I'm going to document this whole process. It's been a goal of mine for a long time to succeed on social media, and this will be the way that I do it. So then what I learned from the Chipotle series back in 2021 is that you have to post the videos ASAP, like as soon as possible, or else it'll never happen. So, during the 50 states in 50 days, we were like, oh, we've got a lot to do during these 50 days. We'll just post the videos when we get back. And the bad part about that, you're just pushing the responsibility down the road. You're kicking the can down the road. So,
And it just adds
one
up.
thing that
It keeps piling up.
exactly.
Mm.
And then now the lessons that you would have learned along the way in the process, you're delaying those lessons to be learned to after it's done, which means that you can't really improve. You're stuck. It's basically you've done this whole 50 states challenge. If I were talking with my younger self, you've done this whole challenge, but you haven't learned anything until after you get back. But now there's no way that you can implement those lessons until you go do another 50 states challenge. Luckily, this is what I've set my life up to do. And so at 23 years old, I've seen all 50 states 3 times now, which is incredible. And, I'll continue to take on 50 states challenges because this country has so much to offer. And there's so many lessons to be learned in the process of taking on these types of challenges, just because it's a monolith undertaking every single time.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess that would be the number one lesson is stay on top of your commitments and then be careful making commitments that you can't keep. My biggest weakness or one of them, there's lots of them, but we'll say one of them right now, the largest I can think of right now is over-promising and under-delivering. And I think that's the case with a lot of people just because it's easy to have good intentions. It's hard to follow
That's
through.
Like me 100%.
Exactly. I think
I'm
all of
Captain terrible at social media, and Eric's gives me homework, and I'm like, I don't wanna, I can't.
I haven't given you homework all year, Erica.
Excuses. And I've been better. See, it's more fun when I do it myself. Anyways, I digress.
But it's something that all of us fall into. So actually trying to learn from my past year's mistakes and growing over time. I think one sign of success of implementing those lessons learned would be the success that last year's challenge had compared to the 50 states in 50 days with Chipotle. Because during that series, we posted 6 videos. That was it, maybe 10. And out of 50 days, 7 weeks of content. And then after I got back, I posted all the videos on YouTube, but it was just the moment was over, and so we didn't really gain a following.
Right?
Exactly, yeah. The moment was over, but then for this one, it took me 7 months. The first 3 marathons I posted videos for, and actually the third one I ever posted got 12,000 likes. So I did really well because I slept in my car. I edited the video well. And then I was like, oh, here's what I'll do. Because this video just did really well, I'm going to not post videos for the next 7 months. So I just fell into the habit of same thing, same mistake as always of pushing it down the road. Oh, I'll just get to it next week or whatever. And my buddy, one of my buddies from high school. I saw him over the summer, and he's like, "So how's this social media goal working out for you?" I was like, "Oh," and I, was trying to say the same old excuses, and then I had to catch myself in the moment. I was like, "Dude, to be quite honest with you, it's not going good." He's like, "What do you mean? You've run 35 marathons this year. Like that's something to be proud of." I was like, "Yeah, but the goal was to make social media succeed, and I've only posted like 3 videos. 10 or 15 videos total, but like 3 like well edited videos, let's say." 20 of the marathons never got posted, right? And still haven't to this day. So from that point forward, I was like, all right, like this is it. I have to make this work. I have to start posting videos. And then that's when there was like that uptick of followers, on Instagram. And I hate that word followers, but you know what I mean? Like the people started watching the videos when I actually
Friends.
posted it.
They're your friends. They're your fam.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It all happened right about the time you came on the On the Runs podcast in August,
Oh, yeah.
I would say. So, we'll just call that the Stoolie bump because we got Stoolie, our mascot here. No, it was you, because I don't know if you remember, I went back and I listened, and you were talking about this, how you only made a couple of videos and they did really well. You did the one in Vermont with the Ben and Jerry's. You had the ribs from the Flying
Oh
Pig
my God.
Marathon. You had a couple other ones that were really good and fun and creative, but you were talking about like the whole, I think I kind of even said to you, like, dude, just do it when you can. Like, go enjoy the moment, take the film, and then do it when you can, and do it however it works best for you. And I think some point around the fall, you really made it work, and it really seemed like you now start seeing Wyatt Moss all over the media. Like, I read about you in newspaper articles, online, of course. I don't actually get the newspaper, and just seeing you everywhere, and everyone's now sharing me all this Wyatt Moss content after we had you on the pod. And I'm like, this is amazing. But then I want to talk about this. You forgot to get a rental car in Boston. You forgot to register for the New York City Marathon when you had a bib, and you had some other hiccups along the way. So not only did you have like the content struggles for a little bit, but you had some hiccups. However, people came to your rescue, like in Philadelphia, right? Everyone starts going on Instagram for Philadelphia, and for New York, they like blew up Instagram, and I think it was MasterCard came to play, right? So tell us about the struggles you had this past fall, really, and then the push to get 50.
Yeah. That was like the most interesting time of the year, I think, because that's where the stakes get really high. I've done 35 marathons, 40 marathons at that point. So in the final countdown, like the horizon, the light at the end of the tunnel is right there. But all the hiccups, that was just kind of the mistakes from earlier on in the year compounding on itself. Because when you get to the end of a series, everything comes to light. And, I was starting to run out of money. My body was just weak. And I was making, classic errors or trying to follow through on like keeping up with paying for all these marathons. Then I would just let things slip through the cracks. So I think that's when the video started doing really well, because then that's when people saw like this guy's a human. And he's not just like a content creator who got a check written for him to go out there and travel the world. It's like, no, he's pressure washing driveways to go out there and pay for this series, right? So then I think that's why everyone supported me when I made these mistakes. It's like, hey, y'all, I'm trying to do this challenge and I'm 40 through the year and I messed up. And like, I think that humility is what people want. It's like, wow, not only is he this far along in the challenge, we got to get him there for that reason, but as well, like he's just trying to do something cool. He has no nefarious goal in mind. It's just like have a fun year inspiring people by running marathons. And so
I have to tell you, Wyatt, you had me on the edge of my seat during those, let's call them snafus. I was like, if this kid does not go, if he doesn't get a bib, I'm going to rage. Who do I yell at? Who do I call? Who do I write a scathing email to? Like, I was ready to go on the line for you. Because
Wyatt,
like,
she was yelling at me to do something.
I was like, Eric, who do you know? We're like, we know the same people. There's nothing we can do. But like, just sharing it, following along with the story, like I was on the hook, and I'm so glad that so many other people felt the same, and just we did really want you to succeed. So I'm so happy it all worked out. And literally I was glued to the social media just trying to figure out where you'd go next, what you were up to. It was so cool to just follow along and live vicariously through you.
I think that was the key right there of why everyone started finding the series interesting, because a lot of people run all the time, but I think the fact that they were part of the journey now. It's like, okay, well, how do we play a
Right.
role in getting this kid across the finish line? Exactly, invested in the series. So, any of the mistakes that I made, like for New York City, for example, I had a guaranteed entry, and I saw a confirmation email in my inbox. I just like searched up New York City Marathon, like confirmation. I was like, okay, we're good to go. And like that was in March of 2024. And so then, because that was like the register date for all of the nonprofits and companies that had race bibs. And so then we get to like a week out, and I text them, the team over at Marathon Photo, and I was like, hey, I don't have my race bib. Do y'all have the information? They were like, you haven't filled anything out yet. It's past the due date. And I saw the confirmation email, but it was for the whatchamacallit,
When you
not the
apply,
rally.
right? Like,
What's
did you
that
do
thing
the
called?
lottery too, or
The lottery. It was the confirmation that I applied for the lottery. It wasn't the confirmation that I signed up for the entry. So yeah, I think those types of issues, or like for Philly, I should have just didn't buy an entry. I pulled it up on my computer. I saw that there was open registrations. I was like, okay, well, I have some time. I don't have enough money to pay for this weekend. Pay for it this weekend, but I'll pay for it, next weekend or whatever it is. And so then a couple weeks later, like I think it was the week before, 2 weeks out, I was like, oh no, yeah, it was when I was at New York City because I went
that's
to
right?
an
Because it
after
was a
party.
couple weeks later, right? Oh
Yep. And so I
God,
went to
you
an
were
after
just like,
party.
for fuck's sake! So we gotta get this kid there. Like, but
Yeah.
I was so happy. That was probably the most fun one I saw you do with like the hot dog
The hot dog.
costume. Like the costumes, we got to talk about some of those too. But thank you, Dietz and
Yeah.
Watson. You guys pulled
Exactly.
through.
Yes. That's the other thing is that like I think a lot of people in my position would have asked for a check as well, and like they're just asking for too much at that point to get into a marathon. I was like, hey, look, I'll do whatever you want. Like I'll run in a hot dog costume. I'll like promote your company. I don't need any
Yep.
money. I just need to keep the series alive. And like, not that I said that to anyone on the team, but I think they got that vibe. And so like, hey, we have an entry for you here, and it's like, great, I'm going to promote you well. So for New York City, MasterCard got 3 million views on the Verrazano Bridge video that I posted.
Wow.
So they got their money's worth. And for Dietz and Watson, the Philly Marathon videos, I think got like 600,000 views. And yeah, so I think that
amazing.
Overall, both of them, far exceeded the bib donation, let's say.
All right, Wyatt. Well, I think I want to hear all it too, but one I really want to hear about is spare no details on the New York City story here. And I want to know, I
Yes.
remember like reading your story one time and seeing like all the story replies. You're showing how everyone came up and everyone responded and everyone reached out. And I want to know everything from how did you manage that? How did you get connected with MasterCard? And then not only you went to New York City, you got your bib, then you went to New Jersey, I think you ran, or Maryland, you ran a marathon there. Then you go back to New York City, and not only that, you run in a suit. You get to start the race with Alexi Pappas. Like, spare no details. Tell us about New York City, man. Tell us this whole story and the journey you had.
Well, so I flew up there, and like I had my flight booked, but I didn't have the marathon entry. And it wasn't until I flew up that anyone knew that I was going to be running. I got a message on Instagram saying, hey, we have a bib for you. We'll meet you at the expo and give it to you and everything. So that kind of suspense, I guess, led a lot of people to be like, what's going on? And I couldn't say anything.
Radio silence, right? You're like,
Exactly. I couldn't say anything because I wanted to make sure that, everything was figured out, that I wasn't going to upset anyone by running this marathon or whatever it was. And so anyways, we get up there. It's at the expo. I'm working the expo all day with Ketone, which was fun. They actually ended up sponsoring the 7 Continent series. But this was like one of the seeds of like one of the reasons why they chose me for that series. We'll get into that in just a second.
Yes.
But I was working the expo all day on Friday for the New York City Marathon. Saturday, I was running in Maryland. So I had to hop in a rental car, drive down. Funny story about that is that I left at like 8 p.m. And I was like sleeping for an hour and a half or 30 minutes, wherever it was at a time, on the way down there. Not safe at all. And I get down there at 6 a.m. and I'm like, all right, like 2-3 hours of sleep. We're going to run this marathon in Maryland. I put on my onesie that I brought up there because that was the costume for the weekend, and go out there and run. And it was cool because at that point people knew who I was. So then they were like, "Oh, dude, you're that guy who runs those marathons, forever." And I was like over there, like, like just absolutely dead.
Like, do you have a pillow?
Yeah, exactly. So that was a really cool race. Anyways, we get back to the car, and I'm like, all right, I have no time. I have to head back up, return the rental car. So I drive, get caught in traffic or whatever, and finally get back and stay at my buddy's place. Wake up the next morning, and so the timeline here, it's Sunday morning of the New York City Marathon, and like 6 days earlier, I had no idea whether or not I'd be able to run or continue the challenge. So it was kind of wild, like all of this happening all at once. But they didn't tell me about that Alexi and I would be running together with the first 25 runners of the race, which is just wild, out of 55,000 people.
Wow.
To start with the first 25. It's absurd. They didn't tell me that until I was working the expo. So then I was kind of in like a haze, like, holy cow, I've been working all day, and then they give me this race bib. I'm like, this is happening. But showing up to the start line that morning, I was like, we're finally here. Like, the same thing happened when I went to Philly, where you go through that the whole year, and there's not really a question, because if I have to reschedule one of these marathons, I'll be able to do it just because I can find another weekend to throw a double together and like run a small marathon in upstate New York. But to finally be there in New York, and then same thing for Philly, it's a special feeling. For New York especially, I was wearing my dad's tuxedo for my mom and dad's wedding.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, that was the tux. So then running with Alexi that morning was just crazy. Running with an Olympic athlete, and the first 25 runners of the race, running on the Verrazano Bridge for my first New York City Marathon. All of it together was just crazy. And then I was actually posting videos as I was running. So, I recorded that video of me on the Verrazano Bridge, press post, and I was exhausted. Alexi actually had to put her elbow into the side of my leg because my IT bands were so tight from running the marathon the day before and then sitting in the car. And then as well, having run 43 marathons so far in the year as like a new runner. That was my first. Actually, yeah, October was my first year of running. So like that was a year into my mile every day streak. All of that together, it was just kind of unreal. But it was also like one of the most painful marathons that I ran because of everything. Like, no sleep the night before, running the marathon, driving 10 hours over the course of that 24 hours before the marathon in New York.
Wow.
So it was so cool. But at the same time, in the moment, I was like, I just want this to be over. And looking back on it, I get to watch the clips. And I'm like, wow, that was actually probably the coolest thing I've ever done in my life. Up until Antarctica, which that's insane. Like,
yeah, it absolutely was. We'll get there in a moment here. But like this New York thing was amazing because just the pictures of you and her, it looked like it was just the two of you, to be honest. And I know when you go over the bridge, it's kind of quiet, but then you finally start seeing the crowd and the fans. And how is that, like the reception everyone had? And God, so many of them had to have known like that was you doing this.
People recognize you
from the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, people started to recognize me then. Everyone knew who Alexi was. So she was running through the street, hyping everyone up. She's done this a couple years in a row. And so then that was really cool to see, just the positive reaction, even though there's no other runners out there, how excited everyone was to see Alexi and I run through there. So, and those photos were incredible. That one photo where I'm doing like my signature pose with the arms, where we're just in the middle of the street, like that was just so cool. Everyone thought that we were just married because she was wearing a fairy tutu dress of sorts.
You'd be a beautiful couple, man. The two
Hey,
of
that's
you,
what I was telling her.
the two of you. We'll clip that, tag her. Hey, Alexi. I don't know what her situation is, but hey, I don't even know what yours is, Wyatt. I remember though. I told you last summer, stay away from girls. You're young. Stay away, man.
Yep. Just incredible moment.
It was so cool. And I want to show you something, man. I got something for you here because you made me think. I've gotten a couple emails lately, and I've been keeping my eye out. At 11:30 this morning, I officially got my TCS New York City Marathon. Congratulations. My application has been accepted.
Right
Let's
on, buddy.
go.
That's the registration that you forgot to do, and I made sure I wouldn't forget to do.
Let's
Oh,
go.
I'm
man.
running in New York this fall, man, with my sister, which is super cool. It'll be her first marathon.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Y'all are going to have the most incredible time ever.
Yeah, maybe they'll let me and my sister start the race like you and Alexi. Nah, probably not.
Yeah.
We'll be like wave
Hey,
7.
You know some pretty important people now, so maybe you can pull some strings.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I have no
He's
agency
like, I don't
whatsoever.
fucking know.
Yeah.
All right,
So-
Wyatt, before we jump into your amazing World Marathon Challenge, I just want to know, out of all of the really cool experiences you had doing the 50 States Challenge, was there one that was like a standout favorite for you? But I can't let you choose number 50 with your Nana because that is just obvious. So
Or
is there any other
you
one
can't
that was,
choose
like, a
New York
standout?
City either. No New York City here.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
just talked
Those are
about
like
it.
the givens. But like, what was a really, really cool race that you ended up doing?
Well, just for context for everyone who doesn't know, for number 50 in Hawaii, my grandma had been to every state except for Hawaii.
So sweet.
So throughout her lifetime, she had been
Sweetest
to 49 states. And so then I talked to my mom. We were able to get my grandma to fly out with my mom, my stepdad. So that was a cool family moment. There's a lot of stress at that moment just because, like, end of the 50 States Challenge and everyone wants to know what's going on. And I was going to try to push my grandma in a wheelchair for the whole race. Couldn't find a wheelchair. Just, it was crazy how everything kind of happened all at once.
Yeah.
So that was definitely a very special moment. Then I got to push her for the last half mile of that marathon in Hawaii for number 50. One of the most special ones outside of that, I mean, my favorite scenery was Big Cottonwood in Utah. My second favorite scenery would be the one in New Hampshire. Marathon.
Yeah,
Very
go New
nice.
Hampshire.
It's nice
They're
it makes the top
beautiful.
of the list.
Nelly
And then
would say we're the
Jacksonville,
first
Wyoming.
loser, but number 2, baby. Deuces.
Deuces. Jacksonville, Wyoming is number 3 for most beautiful. I think for special moments, Philly and New York City, just because of, and then Tulsa, right? Because
Ooh.
once I ran Tulsa, that was number 49. And what are the odds that like Philly Marathon was on Sunday, the week before the Tulsa Marathon? I think it's called the Tulsa Marathon. Route 66. That's what it is. It's like their biggest marathon in Oklahoma, right? And just for 2024, the Route 66 fell on the same day as the Philly Marathon.
Oh.
So when I did my scheduling, I thought that the Philly Marathon was Saturday, but that was the half. So then I was like, well, I have to run Philly because there's no other ones. What are the odds that there's a trail marathon the week after in Tulsa, Oklahoma? Right?
That worked
There's
out
only,
so well.
mind you, like when I'm in Philly, that's number 48. We've got 5 weekends left in the year, and Hawaii is number 50. To do, Oklahoma, it would have to be the 1 week in between. It was just definitely a godsend there.
Yes.
But I think, let's see, your favorite moment. I mean, the one in Portland was really special because, ran the marathon in New Hampshire, slept in the airport, and then ended up running like my top 5 fastest time for all of the 50 marathons.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually, during that marathon, the thing that made it so special, I was like, all right, Lord, give me some joy, some visions of joy, right? And so you can see all the photos of me from mile 10 to mile 26. I was sobbing tears. And it was because I was getting these images in my head of like watching my son hit a baseball for his first time and like spinning my daughter around at our wedding, or not our wedding, at her like first dance, spinning my wife around at our wedding, just like those types of visions. I don't know. That's what propelled me forward to get a 3:26 after sleeping in the airport the day after running a marathon on the other side of the country. That was like a special moment. And people would come up to me at that point, like, a new friend of mine. He was like, his name's also Eric. He's like, yo, dude, how's it going? And I was like, yeah, it's a good name. It's a good name. He's like, yo, dude, how's it going? And I was like, dude, I can't right now. I'm sorry. I was just like just bawling tears the entire time. But I think Portland was a really special one for that reason.
That's awesome. All right. And I have to say, I'm so glad that you are giving extra context because I just assume everybody's already seen all of these videos and stuff. And I also watched your documentary, which I thought was amazing, by the way. So everybody can check out that YouTube documentary as well and Get as much
Check out the
footage
show
as
notes.
too.
It's there.
Shout out Becca Mitchell. She is the most incredible producer, editor, documentary creator of all time.
Right on. It hit me right in the feels, dude. I'm not even joking. Like it was a very,
You know,
very nice documentary.
it's one thing to be able to share my story, right? But to articulate together a timeline, edit the whole thing without getting paid as a pregnant mother with her fourth child,
Oh wow.
7 months pregnant, like
Not
that's
a big
Becca.
deal.
Yeah, not a big deal. This is crazy. Like Becca, she produced, edited, filmed, like did everything without, just phone calls. She would like call me, but without any of my help outside of just sending her footage. Right? She did all of this by herself in the hours after her kids went to bed, having 3 kids, being 7 months pregnant. So I just have to give her the most kudos of all time, just because it's an incredible documentary. But I can't take credit for it whatsoever, because
It came
it's
out
one thing to
so
share.
well.
Yeah.
So Wyatt, I know Erica really wants to hear about the World Marathon Challenge, but I have one
who
more
doesn't?
that I wrote down in my notes, and I want to ask you this. So at one point when we had you on last summer, I asked you the question, like, where do you live? What do you do for rent and all this stuff? And you go, actually, I'm homeless. And I was like, I could believe it because you just stay with all your buddies. But the real answer was you moved back home with your parents, and your mom said something along the lines like she saw the success of the 50 states Chipotle challenge and believed in you. What was their reaction and response as this 50 marathons around the country throughout the entire year grew and got all the attention? What was their reaction to all this?
So here, I asked my mom when I ran number 50 in Hawaii. I was like, crazy year, She's like, yeah, like insane year. I was like, did you think I could do it in a year? And she said, when you started this challenge, I knew you'd be able to finish it. I just didn't think it would happen in 2024. And I was like, that's fair, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that, it's great that she didn't tell me that, because I think that's, she only gave me positive encouragement every single week. It's like, all right, Wyatt, like whatever has to happen, we're gonna get you through this. But it's so funny, like at times I didn't even think I'd be able to finish it, right? So I think all of us had no expectation. We were just open arms. What's going to happen this year?
Mhm.
And so it started out as just a way to become more disciplined. I wanted a challenge so big, it would challenge me to the core, and as well that it would only be possible with God. And I definitely see that happening like 1,000 times over. All these individual things falling into place. Like mom can't take credit for it. I can't take credit for it. Not even like the people who helped along the way. Just everything falling into place. It's got to be God. But I think from that perspective, like we all knew that it would happen eventually because I would just stay committed. And seeing it happen in a year was really special. Just to like, wow, first time an idea that I've had actually happened as I thought it would happen,
Mm-hmm.
And wildly better than I ever could have imagined, because I thought it would have just been another like challenge where I go out and run a bunch. I had no plans whatsoever for wearing costumes. I was just coming up with all of this on the fly. I literally started my training 3 months before I started the challenge, So like all of this was just last minute. It was not planned out at all. So seeing the success is that much more special.
Yeah. I just
Well,
have
I
to say
wanna-
thank you for sharing all this with us. It was really cool to follow along with that journey. And I know you've had extra cool journeys since then, and you're doing extra cool shit like in the summertime. Like you're just going to keep doing all the cool stuff. And I just hope you keep sharing with us because we'd love to see it.
And I want to share this with you, Wyatt. To top this off, if you got to go inside our group chats and see the things we wrote back and forth about you, you would see that at some times I was like, I don't know if he's going to do it. Like he's running out of time, and he messed up the rental car, and
I believed.
he didn't
I
sign
had
up for New York properly. I'm like, he's learning. You're 22 at the time. I was like, you're very young and you're figuring it all out and you're learning and getting organized. And I was like, I loved your passion and your drive, but I was like, he's got to figure this out. How's he going to do it? And I was skeptical a couple of times, and you pulled it off. And I love that you pulled it off, but I'm more proud of you for like figuring it out and working through the little hiccups and those little battles and stuff, and like having to go home and build a table really quick to pay for the next trip. Those were the parts that I loved about your journey. The running was just a cool bonus. The New York City was amazing to see, but the work you put in to make it happen and that drive you had to finish this challenge in 2024 and not fail, I was like, that's what I loved. And even though I was skeptical at times, not skeptical, but I was just like, is he going to do it? Is he going to do it? I was like eating the popcorn,
we
popcorn
really did
meme.
have faith.
Yeah, but you did. And Erica was like, he's going to figure it out. He's going to figure it out. And I'm just like, okay, I'm going to eat the popcorn
Where there's a will,
here and
there's
watch.
a way.
Yeah.
We're going to make it happen.
In a weird way of saying it, I'm proud of you because we saw you last summer. We talked to you, and I was inspired by your passion and your dream, your vision. And I'm proud of you because you pulled it off and you figured it out throughout all those hiccups. So good job. Kudos. Big golf clap. Big golf clap. I'm excited to see what you're doing in the future too. And I think things kind of like sprung up really fast and you had to raise like over 40 grand in a matter of days. Erica really wants to know, and we are so fantasized by this 777. We actually talked to a lot of people already who did the Great World Race, and when we saw you were doing this and that Becca Peasy was race directing it, we were like, wow. So again, spare no details. How did this happen?
So the Great World Race, the World Marathon Challenge, these challenges are a flight around the world to all 7 continents in 7 days, where the people that are on the plane run a marathon every single day. So then that's just some context for people who have never heard of it before. It was 3 days after I finished the 50 States Marathon Challenge in December of last year, 2024, that I got a direct message from the race director of the World Marathon Challenge. He's like, hey, we have an open spot, a last minute cancellation. You're the guy that we want on the trip. Is there a way that you can find a sponsor? Basically, it was something along those lines. And so then it's going to cost $44,000 to do this challenge, and we need an answer by Friday. So it's like Monday morning, and so like a little bit of context, right? I've had this dream of going to all 7 continents in 7 days since 2021. I actually have a Google Doc. I can send you all a screenshot.
So this was a long time coming then.
Yes. So after I did, the 50 States in 50 Days Chipotle series, I was like, what's next? And you can see it actually if you go on my Instagram in my pinned photo slides, or at least it's no longer pinned, but if you go back to the Chipotle, like there's 50 Polaroid photos back in 2021 that I posted. It said 50 States in 50 Days, up next, 7 continents in 7 days, right?
Wow.
So then, and I have this Google Doc on my phone created in 2021 of November 2021 of this idea. But my idea was I was just going to travel to all 7 continents in 7 days. And like, people keep asking me like, how is it possible? How'd you do this? How are you able to ultimately get the 7 continents in 7 day series paid for in a blink of an eye? That's where I can't take credit for any of this, right? Because my plan for my life was to travel to all 7 continents in 7 days. But I really do think the reason why I was able to do it is because the whole year with the 50 States marathons, I felt like that was God's will for my life. When you commit fully to God's will and you just give it up to the Lord, it's like, all right, Lord, this is your challenge. This is your life. Just shine your light through me. That's when these crazy things happen. And not because it's not a transactional thing, but it's like, this is why I say I wanted a challenge so big, it would only be possible with God. It's like, I can't take credit for any of this stuff because it wasn't me who pulled it off. It wasn't me who found a sponsor.
Yep.
There were so many seeds planted along the way. So ultimately, I found a sponsor to pay for the full 7 continents, 7 day series. It was Monday morning that I was hopping on a phone call with Ketone IQ. We didn't get to post a sponsored video for number 50 in Hawaii. And it was supposed to be like my first ever like big sponsored post, right?
Yep.
In the moment, I was really upset because, number 50, I've got this debt that I need to pay off. I wish I could have had a video ready to go and posted it because I had been taking their shot of Ketone IQ for almost all the marathons throughout 2024. And I love the product. I was the perfect spokesperson.
Yep.
And I was upset that I didn't get to do the video. But then it was 2 weeks later, that Monday morning, that we were going to hop on a call. And that's when I pitched the idea to the marketing team over there at Ketone. And then I was like, hey, we need this answer by Friday. And they're like, it's probably not going to happen, but we can just ask and see. And so then like 48 hours later, they're like, all right, we got a green light. And I was like, wait, what do you mean? It's like, yeah, we're just going to spread out the payments and like, we're going to figure out how to make this work because this is just perfect timing. And we know that you'll be able to promote the product well. And like, these are the opportunities we need to take action on. So like, that being said, like, why do I think that it was God's will and not my will? Is that I had this idea where I was going to run or just visit all 7 continents in 7 days, right? Back in 2021. God's idea for my life was that, hey, you're going to run a marathon in all 50 states. And then you're going to run a marathon every single day for a week, paid for by the company that you started drinking their product at the beginning of the 50 state series. Like, it's just crazy how all these things played out. And I never could have fathomed that for my life. You know, God's plans for our life are so much bigger and better than we could ever even imagine. I could never fathom that people would ever want to run 7 marathons in 7 days, let alone that I would be there doing it after the 50 states challenge, you know? But anyways, so many things fell into place throughout the year for Ketone to want to sponsor me. I mentioned it earlier on the episode where marathon number 1 in Houston, I ran a 3:39. It was an hour and 20-minute PR from the year before when I ran my first marathon in Atlanta.
Yep.
And I took 3 shots of Ketone IQ during the marathon. So I was like, okay.
Is that all you fuel with is just ketone?
No, I take gels as well. I mean,
okay.
Yeah, you're not really supposed to just take ketones. It's like basically caffeine is a stimulant.
Mhm.
Carbs are a fuel source. Well, then another metabolic pathway, which is a fuel source, would be ketones. So then in the same way that you can stack carbs and caffeine, you can stack ketones and carbs, ketones and caffeine.
Good to know.
And this is why Ketone IQ is so revolutionary, or whatever you want to call it, is that you're providing your body more energy, and it actually is prioritized by the brain and the heart, right? Biologically, like our body has adapted or has been created to survive off of ketones when carbs aren't present. This is why our bodies store fat on our bodies, right? It's that when we run out of carbs, we have a fuel source to keep us going.
Gotcha.
And so it makes sense. Like, it's just hard to, I want to learn how they actually have made Ketone IQ, because that's one thing that like I want to know every single detail. But I do know that I've used it in all the marathons. Number 10 in Los Angeles. That was the one where I hitchhiked to the start line because there was so much traffic. I had to go to the bathroom. I jumped, or not jumped, but I hopped out of the bus. I was like, hey man, just open the doors. He's like, are you sure? Like, and I was like, yeah, I got to go. So then hop out. That's an on the runs moment right there.
Yeah, it is. I was like, where was this?
Gotta go for the start of the marathon, you know? So I hop out and run as much as I can. And then this guy comes by in a truck. I'm like, yo, let me hop in. And he's like, all right, whatever. And so I hop in this truck, hitchhiking to the start line of Los Angeles Marathon, LA Marathon. Anyways, I get started. And the founder of Ketone IQ lives in LA. I didn't know whether or not he'd be running or not, but he's a 2:40 marathoner. There's no way that I'd ever be able to catch up with him, right? Especially because, like, you know, I had to hitchhike up to the start line. I started late, whatever it was. Anyways, I'm running in around like mile 4 of the 10th marathon of the year, having used Ketone IQ all 10 of those marathons. The founder, Michael, runs past me because he was also late to the start line for LA. And so like this was a seed that was planted that like I had no idea that a year later I would be running a marathon on all 7 continents to promote their product, right? But he runs by, I'm like, yo, Michael, because I saw the Ketone IQ logo on his shirt. I told him the story. Well, the guy who edited the video for Michael was on the marketing team, and he's the one who kind of led the charge to make this idea a reality. 9 months later, when I asked him in December about this idea, right? That was his like first day on the job, or like not first day on the job, you know what I mean? Like starting out, editing the videos, and then now he's like the marketing head there. And so then down the road, like Chicago Marathon running for them, only making like $500 on the video, not much.
Yeah.
Then New York City Marathon, working the expo for the whole day, being like the best promoter of Ketone IQ. Boston Marathon weekend, before those two, like working for Ketone just to make $100 wearing the inflatable bottle. Like all of these moments, that was the reason why they decided in December, hey, we're going to send you out there to run this. And then, of
Awesome.
course, we're going to pay this $44,000 bill. It's like, if I just told, everyone, sorry for that long explanation, but if I just told you, yeah, this company wrote me a check for 44 grand and I ran a marathon, what everyone wants to do, it's like this massive challenge, people would resent me. But once you hear like the whole story, it's like, oh, wow, like it makes perfect sense why they decided to cut a check and let this guy promote their product. And then now if you go to the advertisements on Ketone IQ, like the paid ads that they have on their account that you can't see it on the regular Instagram profile, it's just whenever it pops up. If you go to the comments, there's like 50, 60 comments of people saying, I bought Ketone IQ because of Wyatt. You made a great choice sending him out there, X, Y, and Z. It's like, yeah, there's no way I could have ever fathomed that. And I can't take credit for it. It's gotta go up to the Lord.
But didn't they come with a little caveat that you had to do a little fundraising of your own?
Yeah, so to match the 44,000, a lot of people before Ketone IQ decided that they were going to pay for it. A lot of people reached out and they're like, "Hey, I'll drop $500. I'll send you 1,000 if you wear like, Matt Johnson said, I'll give you $1,000 if you wear a shirt with my face on it for the whole week."
Jeez.
And so like, I definitely think I could have fundraised the full amount because I had everyone support me at that point in the year. But when Ketone decided to pay for it, I was like, hey, let's just use this as an opportunity. Let's create a challenge out of this. Let's start fundraising. And so then I posted the first video about the fundraiser match. And then we decided to go with the American Cancer Society and Feeding America. And in that first 24 hours after posting the fundraising video, it was New Year's Eve, we raised $12,000, which was insane, right?
Amazing.
Like I couldn't fathom this at the end of 2023 when I decided, hey, I'm going to take this, credit loan from Wells Fargo that's 0% APR to start this marathon idea that I have just because I have this gut feeling that's what I'm supposed to do with my life. Like you just step into that with blind faith and then, yeah, everything falls into place. We're up
Did
to
you wind up
22,000.
raising all $44,000 that you were aiming for?
I think we're at like 22,000 right now.
Oh, but it's still going though, right?
Still going. So
excellent.
That was one of the things where I was like, hey, even if we don't make it there by the time, I'm still going to, keep fundraising until I hit the goal, right? Because like, if we commit to something, we're going to follow through. Same thing with the marathons. No matter how long it takes, we'll fundraise that amount. We'll run the marathons, whatever it is. And when that's the thing is like, now I have that confidence when I'm slowly starting to build it. Part of the running a mile every single day, how that's changed my life is that every day I'm just adding a stone to my mountain of confidence in myself that I'll be able to follow through on my word. And so then, the mistake that I made several times over throughout the past 5-10 years, my whole life even, of overpromising and under-delivering, and how much money and time and anxiety that has cost me, like slowly learning that lesson with the daily mile, having confidence in my word. That way, when I make the big promises like this, I'll actually be able to follow through.
I'm proud of you, man. That is so awesome that you just turn that around. You're like, I'm going to still do some good. So, hey, if you're ever going to fundraise for Boston, you can do it like that. So keep that in the back of your mind.
Well, I would love to. That's something in the works in the future. There's a nonprofit I work with here in Atlanta, and I think it's something that we need across the board, all throughout the United States and the world even. Our goal is to build community in middle, high school, and college campuses, and then eventually, in communities in general. And we do that through like curriculum and conversations and hosting events. And so I'm trying to use the platform that I built this past year to be able to register Whisper as an organization that I can fundraise for so that I can build teams of people to fundraise for Whisper, the thing that I'm really passionate about, and put all my time towards. Like I'm meeting with Brian on Wednesday, even though there's all this stuff going on right now, right? We're going to talk for 5 hours and try to, move the ball forward. But that way I don't have to sacrifice my dream in pursuit of my dream. That's another thing I'm starting to learn is like, hey, if you have those true intentions, you can stack things together. You don't have to sacrifice your dream to pursue something. It might be more difficult. It might not be as convenient. Take a lot longer.
If anybody can do it, it's you.
We all can.
Yeah.
Like the thing about a set of dominoes is that when you hit the first one, everything falls into place, right? As long as you set things up from the start. And that takes a little bit of time just to think through everything.
Mhm.
But the same is true with like ascending dominoes that get bigger over time. Well, the momentum from one to the next allows you to do something you never thought you could do. When if you were to just try to do it from the start, there's no way you could push over this 1,000-foot tall domino, right? But that momentum is what allows you to do it. So all of us have that ability. It's just the true aim, and ultimately what I believe is God's will. If we're aiming for that, things fall into place.
Oh, I love it, man. You got some good analogies. But we gotta talk about your experience, man, with the World
Oh yeah.
Marathon Challenge. Like we
Yeah,
I'm
186 miles over
curious.
7 days, sleeping on planes, no food, airports,
You're used to the no sleep and the and the constant running and which
visiting Antarctica and all the 7 continents, trip of a
Mhm.
lifetime. That's basically it.
Not a big deal.
Tell us about what was the hardest race? And it doesn't like, was it because it was cold or hot or lack of sleep or whatever elements that were out there? What was the hardest race you had during those 7 marathons?
Every day had its challenge. So we started in Antarctica. And of course, we flew out there in a cargo plane from like the 1970s. This thing is
Oh.
humming so loud, and it's really warm because the engine is right next to you. And because you're literally inside of like a military plane.
Oh wow.
So I got no sleep, and as well, I get migraines on planes, right? So
Oh.
it's great that I had to fly 85 times last year. Like,
Oh no.
I hope you stuck to one airline and got those miles, man.
hey, I am diamond status at Frontier. We get those
There we go.
first class upgrades. They even give me half off sometimes my bag.
Perfect.
No, I'm playing.
I feel like they
But,
can do a little more for you. Anyway.
Yeah. But yeah, so Antarctica was tough because running on no sleep, and it's like, okay, one marathon on no sleep. I've done this plenty of times before. But as the foundation, the first marathon of the 7 days, it's not the ideal scenario to not get sleep on a plane. We go out there and it's actually not too cold, 18 degrees Fahrenheit. So and the sun in Antarctica like shines really bright because there's really thin ozone layer. So like there was a guy running in shorts and short sleeve t-shirt for the marathon in Antarctica, which is absolutely wild. But that one was tough because of the no sleep. Fly back home, or to not home, home base to Cape Town, South Africa. That one was difficult because we had no time from landing the plane until starting the one in South Africa, because the flight out to Australia, day 3, was 18 hours. So we had to get that started as soon as possible. No sleep on the way back from the Antarctica race because we're sleeping in the same cargo plane. So running the one in South Africa was probably the most difficult until I got to day 5 when I ran in Spain. My ankles started hurting. We were running on a track, a Formula One racetrack.
Oh wow.
And so then, the problem from all throughout the 50 States marathons was that my ankles would get really tight and I would pronate too much because I have a fallen arch and all these different things. Well, all of that kind of compounded on the fact that we were running on a Formula One racetrack. So the camber of the road was just super steep. So that one was really difficult. And that's day 5. And I'm trying to post videos. And, throughout the week, I posted 65 videos on Instagram. And part of the reason is because while I was running, I was posting videos because I had to keep people updated,
I need a walking break.
I appreciated that.
Post.
Like you kicked ass there.
So, but then day 6, we fly to Brazil. I'm like, all right, like I just need to get through this. It won't be that bad. And then we'll have Miami. It'll all be over. And I couldn't have been more wrong because it was far from a walk in the park. Brazil was like 85 degrees or something like that, but it was so humid. Insane. Fortaleza, Brazil, over the summer. So that one took forever because we were all exhausted. We were all starving. We were all whatever from a whole week or 5 days of traveling. Finally, we get to Miami, and I was like, all right, this is it. They wanted to break the world record. So we ended up getting to Miami in 5 days and 19 hours. We had a full 29 hours to finish the rest of the challenge, right? So like we were actually on pace.
Yeah.
Exactly. We were on pace to complete it in 6 days because, there's a little bit of a feud between the Great World Race and the World Marathon Challenge. They wanted to take the title.
Okay.
And who wouldn't, right? But like I much would have rather to have the sleep. There's extra 24 hours throughout the week. Nonetheless, we get to Miami, 2 a.m. and just dead. My stomach is wrecked from eating all this sugar throughout the week and airport food. And, you know, my my neighbor on the flight, the passenger sitting right next to me, my buddy Tony and I ate some food from the airport that just didn't sit well. So like that was really tough. And yeah, just like stopping at all of the things at the side, the public bathrooms all along the way.
Mhm.
Anyways, finishing out the marathon in Miami, I think each day had its own challenge, but the whole week will be unforgettable because those are the details that make it worth telling. Those are the obstacles that make it a good story, growth, a fun challenge, not just like a walk in the park.
This is the coolest shit. I'm just so thankful that you did share all of those experiences with us, whether it's here on the podcast or on your Instagram. It was just so cool to get to see what's out there. I can't ever say I've been to Antarctica, but seeing you run in a penguin costume, like it was adorable. But
her Reach the Beach
like the
team, they're the Penguins, so she loves
Oh,
penguins.
I already
Anything
made him
penguins.
an honorary penguin. Don't worry, I took care of
Yeah.
that. but just the fact that you did that on in Antarctica was super cool. I was following along through the whole thing. I mean, Dubai looked amazing. It like
that was
everywhere
cool.
you went just was fantastic. So thank you again for sharing all that with the friends on the internet.
The Pod Fam.
The Pod Fam, you know it well, man. You're a big time
run.
member of the Pod Fam. And speaking of that, last year I had the big question at the end of the episode. It was the Code Brown Commandments. I changed up my question this year. And now, because you're back on the podcast, maybe we make a challenge. Every year we get Wyatt back and you can answer every question. But my question this year is, on the runs, is having this imaginary that might actually happen pasta dinner, okay? At the end of the year, and all our guests from 2025 get to bring a +1. You can bring anyone alive or dead. Who are you bringing to our pasta dinner?
If we're thinking runners, you could take the route of like, all right, the first marathon runner, the guy who who started this whole thing.
Is that Phidippides or something like that? He's actually already on the list.
He's coming already. So
he's already on the list.
He's already on the list.
What? The fact
let me for example, like we have him.
Amazing.
Jesus is coming. Lewis Hamilton is coming. We have a dog coming. So the list is you can get creative here.
Limitless.
Now here's the thing. If you want to make it interesting, you could invite like an unpopular but renowned individual from history. So like I'll let your mind wander, but maybe like just to ask questions. Like if I'm getting to invite someone, do I want to invite someone that like they had a positive impact on the world, or do I want to invite someone to really try to understand the dark side of humanity? Right? Because what makes Thanksgiving dinner unforgettable?
Yeah,
is it
I like this.
The
or is it my uncle's fun questions, like his the stories that he brings up of like the things he shouldn't have done in the past? Like I don't know, you get to stare into the abyss and then kind of learn why it's so dark. And maybe that's someone I would invite, would be like a Julius Caesar, or like some guy from Germany. The guy who created the Volkswagen, maybe. No, but yeah, I think I would probably invite someone like that. I mean, we'll say like Cleopatra, might as well.
I mean, that's even a cool one. Like,
yeah,
I would love to talk to her.
Invite like a world
down
leader.
For Cleo.
Well, you didn't say Alexi, so that just means I got to get Alexi on the pod this year, so she comes to the dinner too. Wyatt, man, you're awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the pod again and being amazing for us and our whole entire pod fam. Dude, you're a rock star. I'm excited to see what you have next. I'm excited for your next 50-state challenge, whatever it is. Do we know what it is yet? Do you know? Are you thinking things going on in your head? You want to give us the exclusive?
Yeah. I know he's got a really cool. Yeah. Oh, is that the board? The board. Yes.
This is the 7 Wonders in 7 Days.
Yes.
So wait, I knew it was the 7 Wonders. I did not know it was for 17. 50. Hiking. Oh, I can get you some recommendations for New Hampshire. Oh, hitchhiking. Oh, it was like, wait, my friend loves mountains. Okay.
Oh, that's cool. Hitchhiking, huh?
I don't know, but I made that sign 3 years ago,
No way.
and I think that it would be a really fun challenge. For a while, it was the double date in every state, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to save that challenge for when I'm married, because if I somehow find a way to have a double date in the Smithsonian, I want to make sure that my wife is sitting across the table from me.
There you go.
But
Yeah, share some real special experiences with her.
Moments.
So that's a great idea. Mhm.
But I think it would be a really fun challenge. The last time I could do it, it's something that no one's really done before. It would have the same appeal of the end of the 50 states marathons, and it would be something so crazy and so unique that I could hopefully, have a lot of fun with the series, but as well, like learn a lot and do something unforgettable, make a
Yes.
moment in time. So we'll see. I definitely will do another 50 states challenge by the end of this year, and it might be that one.
All
That's
right.
cool.
That's cool. That's cool. Well, man, I'm excited. I hope when you do it and when you succeed at this stuff and grow, don't forget us, and we will
Let's
never
just say
forget
he's
you.
got a standing invitation to come jump on the pod whenever you feel like. So just you say, hey, I got some stories for you. We'll make time.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Wyatt, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for being a part of our pod family and coming back for part 2.
And thank
You're
you for doing cool
awesome.
shit all the time. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
keep doing some
stuck
cool
at home and I need something to look forward to.
You could do it, Erica. Just go do it. Like me, I have to go get my kids now at dance practice, so I gotta run. But Wyatt, you're the freaking man. You're wicked awesome. Thank you for doing this. I hope next time, like, you can crash with me and we can hang out and have a good time and go running.
If all else fails, my spare bedroom's always available.
I look forward to the day that we get to have a beer on your porch.
Yes.
It'll be fun.
Yes. Anytime. Hey, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. That was wicked awesome. Wyatt Moss on the On the Runs podcast.